Hi, Anna. Hi, DJ. Daniel, Kim. Hi, guys.
Hi, Pat.
Hi, Pat.
Howdy, Kim. Hi, everyone. So this is a people need to ask to be admitted. So I'm sitting here just admitting people as they call through. Hi, Jerry. Good to see you.
Hello, Pat. Hello, Mark. How are you? All well?
Oh, very well, thank you. Yeah. Well, you've got a lot
Good.
of people coming online here. It's nice.
I'm going to mute and sit in the background, but I'll be here.
I'll bring you to everyone's attention in a moment, I think, Jerry. Hi, Beck. Hello, Sharon.
Hi, how are you?
Well, thanks. Hi, Jules. Kim, hi.
Hi, Patrick. It's Jenny.
Hello, Jenny. Good to hear your
I
voice.
come up as Friedman, as you probably gather, rather than
Yes, I understand.
incognito.
Hi, Sam.
Hey Paddy, how are you, buddy?
Very well, thanks.
I might just get my ugly mug off the thing whilst I eat.
If you wouldn't mind, I don't want to break the internet. Just so you know too that we'll record this and we'll make it available to people who can't make it. Hey, Craig.
That's me, Pat, is it?
That's you.
Hello, how you doing?
Very, very well, thanks. I didn't know you could use technology. It's good to see you.
I can't, but I just got back from Sydney, so I'm just sitting down for the first time since 4 o'clock this morning.
Wow. Well deserved then.
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Hey, everyone.
Hi. Well, we have a bucket load of people coming online. That's great. Damo, Aaron, hi.
Hello.
Hey, Paddy.
And a few people who I don't recognise either. So that's excellent. Ooh, looks like we have some ACC students joining us as well. We'll wait a few minutes. I know we said an 8:30, so 8:30 here in Adelaide, 9 o'clock for Eastern Australia. What's it for the West, Karen?
7.
7. Oh, that's a reasonable time.
Had to unmute there. Yeah, 7 p.m.
Okay.
And say hello.
And we have potential chiropractors there as well. It's nice. Okay. So we'll just wait for a few more minutes while people keep logging in. And here's someone listening to part 2. Maybe Just mute yourself if that's you. Okay. All right. Well, the logins have slowed down a little bit. So if I get distracted, it might be just me bringing some.
Patrick, do you want to make me admin or something and I can just let people in?
It would seem that Patrick has gone. Here we go.
Right, he's back.
Back. Sorry, guys. I'm in the Adelaide Hills and I just had a very brief blackout. So I'm now tethering to my phone. So hopefully that will stop anything like that happening.
Patrick, I was just saying if you want to make me admin or something, I can let people in the meeting as we go, right? So you don't get distracted with that.
That'd be great, Karen. How do I do that?
And don't ask me how to do that though.
Okay.
That's the extent of my knowledge.
Oh, look, it's okay. I think we'll just keep going. I wouldn't want to hold the meeting up while I try and work out that sort of thing.
Yeah, someone's still muted. Patrick, maybe Paul, do you have your mute on? There's still noise in the background.
Muted.
Okay. Well, maybe we'll just ask everyone to mute. There are some people I want to introduce you all to. So as I say your name, then perhaps just unmute yourself and say hi. And that way, I think we can keep out the background noise to everyone. Okay, and I think we'll get started. We're at 8:34 now. So firstly, welcome. We realise we haven't always done the best in communicating with our supporters. So from here on in, we're certainly going to make our best effort to do that. And we thought this is the good time for us to be doing it right now. So today we want to go through just a couple of things. We want to update you all on the college, where it's at, how it's all going, in particular in terms of fee help. I know a few of you have received phone calls recently. We want to make sure we're very clear on what's going on as far as that goes. We want to go through our projections and all that sort of stuff, as well as introduce you to some of the people who are associated with the college. So perhaps firstly, I might just introduce you to the founders of the college. So I think most of you know these people, but just on the chance that you don't, could I introduce you to Aaron, Hayden and Mark? Can you guys just go off mute and have a wave and say hi?
Hello, everyone.
Okay, so without these very committed chiropractors, we would not be here. In fact, there was a conversation in the back of a taxi leaving DG in about 2014 or 2015 that Hayden and I sort of really started pushing to get this thing up and going. Over the last 18 months, maybe 2 years, the ACC board has been chaired by Jerry Adams. Jerry, would you mind just saying hi to everyone?
Hello, everyone. Nice to see you tonight.
Jerry's quite remarkable. He's a graduate from Harvard Business School. He's chaired several international companies and still does that. He was interim dean at the University of Adelaide's Business School. And I think one of the key points in his CV is that he was the man on the ground here in Australia when the state government here in South Australia brought Carnegie Mellon to Australia. Now, that was the first time an international university was brought and allowed into Australia, and that meant that federal legislation had to change. So in Jerry, we have a tremendous chair who knows business really well and higher education. We also have Jenny Graham, who's our high-end academic expert. Jenny, would you mind saying hi? I might put you on the spot there, Jenny.
Okay, sorry, I couldn't find my unmute button. Hello, everybody. Nice to see so many people roll up this evening.
Yeah, it's great. I met a couple of others, by the way, so that's great. Thanks, Jenny. We also have a number of academics here, and so I wonder, Sharon, if you might be able to say hi to everyone. Sharon and her academic team have been instrumental in getting us up and going. I don't think there's anywhere in Australia that has the blended approach to learning that we have. It's a very vitalistic approach. Sharon, do you mind saying hi?
Hi, everybody.
So most of you know Sharon
Exhausted.
pretty
It's
well.
so late. I'm like,
Yeah, we've been working pretty hard today. I see that Naveen's here too. So Naveen, again, she's just completing her PhD. She's from RMIT, but now obviously with us. And is there any other academics, faculty here with us? We also have Anna Cosentino, who's our marketing person. Hi, Anna. And I think I saw a couple of students jump on. Beth, are you there?
I am. Hello.
Hi, Beth. So Beth has travelled to us from Canberra via RMIT to be one of our first students. So you can see the flesh and blood of the ACC as it actually develops and grows. So thanks for being here, Beth. And look, if I've missed anyone, my apologies. Feel free to jump in and say hi too. So that gives you an idea of the people associated with the course. I might get you guys just to put your put yourself on mute just so you can minimise the background noise. And we'll just very briefly just go through what we have achieved over the last little while. As I said, really this started out as a good idea. People have been talking about having a principled college in Australia for a number of years. And we really started pushing for this in 2015 when we started organising people into boards and playing the politics to get going. 2016, we launched our fundraising at DG, and over the course of 2016, we prepared our application to TEXA, which we submitted, I think, basically, it must have been the 25th of December or something like that in 2016. We then had a huge battle with TEXA, but we managed to get through that challenge. We were prepared to go into that challenge with our fists bare, and we really had to push very hard. We encountered a lot of bias, but thanks to you guys and your support, we were able to push through that, which meant that in January 2019, we were granted registration with the government to teach as a higher education provider, and our course was approved as a bachelor's degree. So that meant that we could start teaching. So over 2019, we were going through the process of developing a place to teach from, and then that curriculum was ready to go. So that then meant that in January of this year, 2020, we started teaching. So on the 20th of January, we opened our doors, and 10 people just like Beth wandered through, and we began teaching chiropractic to these guys. So, in the last little while, we've achieved a huge amount. And I think what's really gladdening at this point is that every one of our projections has come to pass. So we're exactly where we thought we would be at this point, even when these projections were just on paper. Our students, our faculty, our facility is just where we thought would be. Our financial position is even where we thought we would be. So it's probably at that point that we might pass now on to Hayden. So Hayden, if you could take over and just fill people in on what our projections are, our financial position, those sorts of details.
Yeah, sure, can do. If Patrick can share his screen here too, this might be easier to see than just telling. But yeah, no, Patrick's right. We've as far as we've gone along to this point, our projections we've met those, and we're on target for where we need to be financially. So I think this first slide here is a 5-year, or hopefully we can bring up a 10-year projection. Do you want to go to the cash flow monthly, perhaps? Yep, that one. So look, there's plenty of detail here. There's numbers everywhere. So look, we'll just go summary version, but I guess, Patrick, do you want to go down to, I guess, our peak cash flow requirement down the bottom there? Here's our number. All right, well, quick summary. So, sorry?
It's that figure there. Can you see line 61?
Just, yep.
I'll take it up a bit.
Yeah, that's all right. Okay. So look, up until this point, what have we done with raising finances? Well, in terms of total money raised, the college has raised $3 million at this point, which is, a huge effort. Like it's a massive effort. There's about 2.1 we've raised in donations and grants, and there's about another $900,000 of loans, which we have just under $200,000 in the bank with a just under $200,000 bank guarantee for our property. So. I guess summary version, where is that money to this point? Most of it, 70% of it is on the things you would expect. So staff, consultancy fees, legals, accountants, all the money that was required to bring about a TEXA registration and fund a building fit out. To get a college up and running and to have, some amazing academic staff on staff. So, and again, according to this, we're right on track. In fact, in terms of our budgets and our application of TEXA, we're under budget by some margin with what we put forward to them, which is great. So on a sensitivity analysis, which is really what this is, it's a lower end summary of our first 5 years of operations. Starting at very small student numbers and building up. And I think on these projections, we're only built up to 65 students per year with, as TEXA wanted to see a smaller number, to make sure that our finances were robust. So, in essence, in summary, by the 10-year mark, we should have retained profits of about $2 million, and we break even and start to draw a profit at the 4th year. So really, up until that point is where, like any startup organisation, runs at a deficit until it builds up to the point where obviously it has enough income to generate funds. So that's, I guess, the point where we are now. So that total cash flow requirement is 1.5 million over the first 4 years, and as I said, that's at a sensitivity analysis, meaning that's just from student fees with no donations, no events, no other income other than student fees. So that's in essence a worst case scenario. If we add in our current donation levels and the events and so forth we've raised, that brings that requirement down to 500,000. Which, is very doable. So, that's the money that I guess we need over the first few years to get us through to a point where we generate income and grow from that point. So, I guess the question is, well, what do we need? Do we just need that amount of money? And the answer is, well, we thought we did until we had a reply from the department with regards to our fee help. And really that's the crux, I guess, of part of this call is to talk about what we need for fee help. They came back to us and said, right, well, we need to see that 1.5 million and you need to sort of have it in the bank available. We didn't really expect that to be the case. And they also said that our income streams through donations and events, which events alone, we've raised $200,000 this year, wasn't a guaranteed stream, and they wanted to see it in the bank. So some urgency has then come to, getting further funding for ACC, not because we're not on target or don't have potentially the funds to get there anyway. It's just that to get fee help approval, it appears that the department want us to have that money in the bank. And so the urgent need of now to raise some capital is not because we need it to survive per se, but it's to get fee help. And to get fee help is, for our college will be a huge leg up. It's not a be all and end all. If we weren't able to secure it, we could certainly move forward and find other funding ways for our students, but it would be significantly helpful, and it would certainly allow us to have more students on campus and obviously get the college to a point where it's profitable, way quicker.
Thanks, Hato. So as you can see, we've been working at this for a number of years, and we have high-end metrics here. We know what to expect. We build up into our projections a lot of sensitivity to ensure we are underestimating student numbers and overestimating costs. So we think we have a good handle on what's needed. Perhaps at this point, maybe Henry, you could just go into the discussion we have with fee help and to why they are asking for this cash now.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Patrick. And Hayden. Look, yeah, Free Help, they are looking at both sides of the equation from the student's perspective, as well as making sure that the college has sufficient liquidity for the students to complete the course. So that being the case, whilst the college has a track record of having money in the bank and being liquid, as Patrick reiterated, there's a further requirement that the college have sufficient evidence to ensure that it can teach through through the duration of the course and beyond. So that being the case, cash reserves or a war chest of funds is the department's preference. And so whether that be by way of a guarantee or cash in the bank, effectively, there's a myriad of options. But essentially, in the college's infancy, the necessity for cash reserves, whether that be from the profession, government, or otherwise, is something that we'd require for the department to consider providing fee help to the college this year.
And sorry, I didn't introduce Henry to you guys. Henry's our business operations manager. He's a background at Deloitte's, University of Tasmania, and a number of other institutions of that ilk. So again, we're in good hands when it comes to his advice and direction. Thanks, Henry, for that.
No worries.
Okay, so in order to deal with this, I know a lot of our very key supporters like Kim, Sam, and Adam have been on the phone talking about a trust. And so I think it's probably best then that Troy, maybe you can talk about the plan for that. Troy's not associated with the ACC other than being a financial supporter of ours, as well as a philosophical supporter of ours. So Troy, if you could take over from here.
Yep, thanks, Pat. Yeah, my role, I was asked to come on as a trustee for just the trust. So my role in this isn't actually a part of the ACC specifically. It's really about managing people's money that sits in there. So anyone who contributes money in, the money is going to be coming into this unit trust, which myself and probably Adam McKenzie will be trustees for, or directors of the corporate trustee company. That's still getting set up. The lawyers are looking at making sure that we set it up so self-managed super funds can contribute and that it meets all financial regulations as well. So the lawyers are doing some research at the moment to make sure that the setup is above board for anyone who does contribute money. For myself and Adam, if we're the only two directors or trustees, our role will be to make sure if the ACC needs money, that they justify to us why we're going to move that across. So the trust will be set up as call it the ACC unit trust number one. And then if the ACC are in a financial position where they need money, they can come to the trust and then we can decide to loan money across to them. So it'll have loan agreements that happens with that. And it'll, with organised times, we're out repaying that money as well. And looking at the projections, and Pat went through the numbers that they may need. I think a lot of the numbers are really about the worst case scenario, but as a lot of people on the call already know, that the ACC has got a lot of money through donations and other avenues. So if they continue to get those revenue streams in, then it'll really decrease their need to access the funds that are in this unit trust. So the money will still sit in that unit trust. We're looking at paying a 5% dividend on that annually per annum. And so that money will be generated through the ACC raising money through events, etc. And Pat and the team have got some great ideas around that. And it's going to be their responsibility to put money into that so we can then distribute out to the unit holders on an annual basis. As far as timelines goes, there was a bit of talk early on about it just being 3 years, but I think if you do look at those projections that Hayden just talked about, it's likely to be 5 years before they're cash flow positive. So, I think after 3 or 4 years, we could give money back to certain people if they needed it and if the situation was fortuitous enough. But I think the idea that there would need to be funds in that unit trust for 5 to 7 years is quite realistic. So yeah, we've got the ability to bring other money into that unit trust down the track as well. It's not as if on one day it's going to all of a sudden be set up and that's it. There'll be flexibility for us as trustees to allow money to go out back to unit holders if they need it, if we can get more money to replace it, and to make sure that we keep meeting that Department of Education guideline and what's needed to keep that fee help approval. So that's my role, and yeah, my thinking on it is to keep it very separate from the ACC. So the money is really going into that unit trust. It's not going into the ACC's bank account. Does that make sense?
Thanks, Troy. Yeah, and we should say too that ACC, pardon me, when it comes to its projections, it hasn't included any donations. It hasn't included any income from events. If we do factor those in, that 1.3 peak cash requirement drops to about $400,000. So we know we will continue to receive donations. We know we'll continue funds from events and other sources. So we would hope that we don't have to draw on the money from the trust. However, this is something that that Fee Help wants to see that we've established. Okay, I wonder, Kim, I know you made some calls already, and I know a lot of this conversation so far has been purely around this fee help issue and why we're asking for money right now. I wonder if you might be able to give just a summary of how much you've raised in pledges so far.
Hi, Patrick. Hi, everyone. Thank you to everyone who's received my phone calls over the last 2 or 3 weeks. I really appreciate you not running when you knew I was doing some fundraising. As I've explained to many of you, I'm actually collecting investment amounts. It's not just asking for donations, although we're very happy to take donations. We are hoping that at this stage, we have around 800,000 pledged. Thank you to some extremely generous people, investors. We are up to about 800,000. If by the end of next week we can make that over $1 million, I think then Patrick will be able to speak to the Department of Education, and we are very positively, I guess, positioned to be able to allow these students to have fee help. With almost 47 students on potentially coming on board next year, 26 of them doing the 1 year prerequisite subjects at Charles Darwin University and others doing it at other universities. Really, I'm sure you all understand that if we can offer them fee help, we're going to have so much more opportunity of making this college incredibly successful and sustainable in a much shorter time. So preferably three to 4 years, as long as we're able to get over this little hurdle. So thank you to all the extremely generous people who've been so positive speaking to me over the last couple of weeks. Thank you so much to Sam Floriani, to Troy Miles, to Adam Sheriff for all your incredible hard work. Patrick, Hayden, Aaron, Mark have done an amazing job over the last 5 years to get the college to where it is now. And I really, really felt that they needed a little bit of help and an injection of some passion and enthusiasm. So thank you guys for allowing our little team to get in and help you. Thanks, Pat.
It's been wonderful, Kim. Your energy has been amazing. Yeah, the three of you guys have been sensational. So thanks for that. Okay, so you can see that this is about, it's not even so much about the college. This is much more around supporting the students. It allows the students to have access to a government loan to cover their fees. So whilst that means that the ACC can bring in more students, in the end, our survivability is on our student numbers. You can see this is really for them, so they're not having to pay it directly out of their pockets. So the money's not really going to us, even though it's set in our trust in our name, and the department wants to see that we have access to it, but it is really to secure fee help for our students. Okay, so maybe I'll just pause there just for a moment. Do we have questions from anyone? Feel free to type in the chat or ask that if you wanted to. Damo.
Hey, Pat. Thanks for putting this on. Thanks, everybody, for all the amazing, incredible work you're doing. It is really great, and I'm an absolute supporter of the college. Just a few questions, obviously, with regards to accessing money through our self-managed super fund. There's a few little hurdles we've got to jump for that, and I'm reticent to pledge money if those hurdles don't come through, if you know what I mean. So if I say I want to give this much money or loan this much money, it's coming from my self-managed super fund, but the trust isn't set up in a way that it's going to be able to happen. Then I've given an empty promise. So I suppose a few things that I just need to, get clear on. Once this money goes in, let's say we get to $1 million, let's say we get to 1.5 million, or maybe even it gets to 2 million, who knows where it gets to. Is that money that's been raised into the trust, is that guaranteed by anybody? And then let's say worst case scenario, all that money disappears, so the ACA has to access it all. And then the company goes down. Is that just a loss? Is that a net loss that each of the investors would just cop?
Henry, I think you might be the best person to field that question.
Yeah, Damon. So the trust is a standalone trust outside the direct control of the college. The trust is being set up to accept funds from individuals and other vehicles, including self-managed super funds. It's important that your own super fund meets the relevant investment requirements and the like, so it can complete a transaction of that nature. The funds going across from the investment trust to the college, there are no guarantees. However, on the basis of the financial projections, the number of students coming through, the break-even point is approximately 100 students being on board, and with a majority of other institutions winding back as opposed to the college winding up, the risk is relatively mitigated. And in regard to the whole loss of funds, I'd find that with the current management team and the current data we have in place at the moment, I can't see the college drawing down all those funds, because as Patrick's mentioned, we haven't built in any other fees in those projections outside of pure student fees. So the likelihood of a requirement of drawing down all of those funds is extremely unlikely. The funds aren't available until fee help is secured. So once again, if that's not this year and it's the following year, then once again the same scenario takes place. So there is some risk mitigation there, but the key message that I want to make sure is that it isn't guaranteed.
Henry, could you perhaps also just outline your credentials in terms of understanding that process?
Yeah, so I have formal qualifications in wealth management. I've been a director and responsible manager of financial services license, director of Big Four and mid-tier accounting firms, for the last 25 years. So, I've got formal and practical experience in regard to that, as well as administering, in excess of 200 self-managed superannuation funds.
Thanks, Henry. Damo, you had a further question?
No, that's great, Pat. Thank you. And thanks, Henry. That's terrific. And so, Henry, just to clarify, the trust is being set up so that we will meet our requirements, through an audit that we go through, as you know, with self-managed super funds. This will all be fine. No worries.
Yep. So that's the reason why we've engaged Piper Alderman to make sure that all the governance and regulation is met. There's no questions about it, and that's also the reason why everything's at arm's length and meeting all necessary checks and balances.
Great. All right. Thanks, Henry. Thanks,
Right.
Okay. Beth, I think you had a statement you wanted to make too.
I was just going to add that from a student's perspective, because the college doesn't have fee help yet, our students aren't recognised as full-time students by the Australian government, which means that we also don't qualify for support from Centrelink. So we can't get the student allowance or Austudy until we have the fee help.
Yeah, so again, you can see that it's not, yes, it's about the college, but it's much more about the students. Them being able to live and get some sort of support from the government as students is tied into us achieving fee help registration as well. Thanks, Beth. Other questions from people? Okay, well, maybe I might hand over then to Mark Postles.
Hold on.
Yes, sure, yes. Cameron.
Yeah, no. Good evening. Look, further to what Damien was asking, has there been any consideration of perhaps putting a floor limit of drawdown within the unit trust? So let's say the unit trust ends up with $1.5 million, but the college does have challenges. The money's happily loaned or given to the college to support them, but perhaps with a floor limit drawdown, so that there is some risk mitigation. Certainly, as far as an investor would go, that may give us confidence that it wouldn't just fall apart.
I don't see there being a problem with something like that. Henry, do you have any comment on that one?
Yeah, look, it's not the intention and it's not the requirement of the college to do a full drawdown from day one. So no, it's very much the intention that it's a reserve, if at all needed, and it'll only be drawn down in cases where the liquidity is tight. So in those cases, I couldn't see that the drawdowns would be larger than between $100,000 and $150,000 at a time.
Troy, any comment from you as far as that goes?
Yeah, I think one thing, like the way I think of my position as a trustee is I'm there to represent the money, so represent the people who have actually put money in. I'm not there to look after the ACC, I'm look after the funds. So, when the ACC asks for money, there needs to be a business plan that goes with that as to why at this point in time, whether that's this year, next year, etc., the money's needed. And so I think at every stage, my take on it is, it needs to be a really open relationship, but if there's issues there, then it's my responsibility to also communicate back that to the members of the trust as well. I don't see myself as part of the ACC. I see myself as working definitely for the people who contribute the money. So, and even as I was talking about before, the idea of bringing down $400,000 potentially. If there's $2 million in this fund, that's only 20%. If there's $1 million in there, it's 40%. So I think having more money in that fund, looks good for the Department of Education, but it also mitigates individual risk for people as well. And I think if you look at the business plan, that the only risk is really time. I think the failure of the college doesn't seem to be much of an issue from my personal perspective. The ability for them to pay back any money that they do draw down is probably the issue, whether that's in 5 years or 7 years, or if it takes longer. That's, I think, the largest risk is time, not so much if but when.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Cameron, does that satisfy your questions?
Yeah, I think so. Thank you.
Okay, cool. All right, so we're going for about half an hour, and I didn't want to go much longer than that, but I don't want to cut anyone off if they have questions. So want to recognise too, Adam McKenzie is here. I think that Adam, you'll be sitting as a co-director with Troy on the trust.
Yeah.
Just wave and say hi. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey everyone. Yeah, definitely feel the same with Troy. So basically we want this all to happen for ACC, but we also need to be protecting everyone's money to make sure that everyone who's willing to put in, and so the more of us that actually put into this, the easier it's going to be for everyone. Like Troy suggested, it's a smaller percentage of everyone's input, and it's not that, you know, someone's money is going to get used first and someone else's. It's a percentage of the equity that's been put in across the board. So if it gets drawn down by $100,000, say, and there's $2 million in there, we're talking like $5,000 over the, you know, the 20 people that have got, you know, money put in, if that makes sense, to make up the, what the percentage. And so that's a really good risk mitigation thing as well. And then, you know, we're going to want to know all the goings on and how everything's going to make sure that everything's moving in a positive direction rather than negative direction. Because like any investment, if you think that there's a negative, you know, direction, you want to have a sort of stop loss position, so that you don't lose the whole lot. But again, looking at the business plan of what the college has set up, and with the number of students that are already there and then the number of students that we're pushing towards, you know, starting, it's only going to look better and better with the fee help there, and then more students will start, at which point it puts the college in a better position to be successful. So I think that it's a great strategy that's been come up with here to, you know, achieve the actual, you know, business plan that the college has set out.
Thanks, Adam. That's great. Okay, so yes, Damo.
Sorry, Pat. Thanks, Adam. Just with that, when I was speaking with Kim yesterday, and thanks for the call, Kim, yesterday, Kim mentioned that as money is drawn down, then the interest rate would go up in terms of what will be earned, potentially up to 7% or whatever. If the trust is established to hold the funds, who raises the funds to pay the interest? Is that going to be the college's role? And if the college is raising the funds to pay the interest, but you're drawing money down from the trust, there's just a little bit that's missing there for me, that's all.
Yeah, Henry, well, I know we've talked about this very issue. Henry, perhaps you could cover that one.
Yeah, sure. So in regard to the operating costs, so the things that if depending on the interest rate, which is yet to be determined, it's really sort of it's a discussion point. And if it's, you know, say 5%, then that would be, you know, funded by the college, as well as the cost of operating the investment trust as well. So whether any accounting or compliance costs are met by the college, that will be an operating cost of the college. And if the college needs liquidity, then, you know, and the investment trust is successful going forward, then, you know, the college may tap into the investment trust for, you know, to service those costs.
Right. Okay. And okay, so all right. So the triggering of a greater percentage being paid to the people who've contributed to the trust, let's say that's an extra 1% or an extra 2%, because funds have started to be allocated. My understanding was that as the fee help was triggered, that became possible, then the money would remain for the duration of the 3 to 5 years, and interest will be paid on that amount. But I'm not clear as to what triggers the 5 or 6 or 7%. And that 5%, I think, is where it may be starting at. But is that negotiable at the moment, Henry, or is that going to be 4% or 4.5%, or is it definitely going to be 5 and then moving up? These are just questions I've got to be able to, you know, put forward.
Yeah. Well, it might be. And when we have the full mechanism, that's probably the time to have that discussion, I think. So unless Troy, you want to cover up on that one. I don't want to get too bogged down into the detail of it, and I'm not saying it's not important. I think we need to make sure we're very, very clear on how that works. Troy, anything you want to say?
Yeah, and this is probably more a personal thought than anything else. I've jumped on this whole situation in the last week, 10 days in my role. And the way I saw it, Damo, was I think a fixed interest rate is actually a preferable model. My feelings on that, and the reason why, is any interest that's earned is coming out of the ACC. So if they need to draw down money, I actually think that charging a higher level of interest is counterproductive for what we're actually trying to achieve here. So my suggestion has been, and this is not necessarily the way it's going to be, but we've got to get back through the lawyers and chat about this, but is just fixing it at 5%. I think that's very realistic. I think it's a pretty good return for people over the next 3 to 5 years. And I think it looks after the people who are contributing money, but also it looks after the college as well. And I think we don't want to be, as people contributing to this fund, we don't want to be then putting more excess burden onto the college to have to pay this interest. So, part of what I think is we don't have too much money because they've got to pay interest on it as well. But also I think 5%, if we were able to just cap it at 5%, I think most people would be pretty happy with the people I've talked to. So, but yeah, as Henry said, it hasn't been locked in yet. So.
And look, Damo, maybe we can set up a one-on-one conversation between Henry, myself, Hayden, and Troy, just to make sure we get that point right. If you can carry that point through a discussion, I think that would be good. That'd be very helpful. Okay. All right. Now, I can't see everyone on my screen here. So if there's anyone else with questions, just please sing out. Again, I'm mindful of time. I'm just sort of scanning through. Just wave your hand around if there's anything else anyone wants to say.
So one more question. Is there a time frame for this? Like, is there Kim expressed a sense of urgency? August was mentioned. So yeah.
Yeah, the department have given us an extension because they understand that to set something like this up takes time. But that extension expires on the 29th of July. Okay. So there is a time pressure. That doesn't mean we have to have all the money in the bank at that time, but I think we need to show very clearly to the department that we have a number of people who are prepared to put money into it. And this is the amount of money we've raised so far. These are the pledges, these are the people. So they can see it's a real thing. Okay. So whilst we don't have to have all the money there by next Wednesday, I think if the money was there by the end of next month or something similar to that, and that the money was only goes into action if we get fee help, that provides security to the people who put that money in.
Thank you.
Okay, all right. So I would like to just bring things, tie things together. Mark, could you sort of bring us home?
Sure. All right. I guess the question we have to ask ourselves is, given in looking around these faces in the room here, we're all pretty well seasoned, pretty well healed, and we don't really need to do anything like this. We don't need to have another college. We don't need to worry about where we're going to graduate from. We're there, and yet there's this thing that drives us as chiropractors to want to perpetuate the tribe and perpetuate the truths of chiropractic. And I think I was privileged to be 975 in Victoria when we welcomed Preston Institute of Technology, which was to become RMIT, as being the saviour of chiropractic and to carry the chiropractic flag. History will tell us that didn't exactly work out the same. The same was with Sydney College that gave the mantle over to Macquarie. And the same with the ACA, and I was sitting on the board at the time where we gave Murdoch every assistance. And to a large degree, I think we've created one breed of chiropractic, and it's not necessarily reflective of, as I cast my eyes around this room, a lot of people here. So my suspicion is that's a driver. It's a driver for us when in 40 years later, in 2015, we sat around a table and said, hey, we can do something about this because no one else is going to do anything unless someone does something. So that's been the journey, and the vision was to have a chirocentric institution that integrated the chiropractic values, but didn't sacrifice science, and had as its output robust clinicians and competent chiropractors, and was about the essence of chiropractic practice. And the reason I think that the driver for that has been to preserve the profession as we see it. And there are other models that have emerged and certainly have quite a stronghold. So from that position, this is, whilst we are all, as I'm assuming, qualify as sophisticated investors, we have this heartfelt yearning to make chiropractic into what it can be. And we've had this process over in New Zealand. I've been fortunate to be on the board over there for the last 15 years or so. And, we've come from a stage that ACC is in, and actually in worse, it was worse. We were counting paper clips. We were supported by the profession, and quite interestingly, one of our saving graces was the Australian chiropractic profession that rattled the cans at DG and bought $380,000 together to provide an overdraft facility for the college to operate on. And I see there's so many parallels here, because what we're asking you to do is an overdraft-like facility, but to support the students. And so this is where we sit right now. It is about the profession, and our huge gratitude goes firstly to all of you who have contributed, and I know there's lots of you in this room that have, and urge you to just ask yourself the question. It's not about us. It's not even about the ACC. It's about a facility that's going to allow chiropractic to be distributed to people, to students, and go out into the community in a way which sits maybe more closely with your values. And we're here to preserve that. And we make no apologies for that. And that's the vision, it's the dream. And, as far as we're concerned, it's going to happen. We've been through tougher times. There are options at this juncture, and in many respects too, it's sort of the ultimate dream is to not to be dependent on government at all for any sort of handouts or any assistance. And maybe that day will come. I'm sure that day will come. But in the meantime, it is a stepping stone, and it needs action. As we know, there's a week if we're going to make the opportunity of this one. Then I think just if you can ask yourself, look, am I in or am I not? It's quite simple. And so just reach down inside, and I would say, why don't you use the chat button at the bottom, and just put in the chat box that you're in. Now that may mean that you don't have maybe all the funds, or even the funds that would qualify you to go into the trust. But let's get an indication of if you're in or not, and that's all we need to know. If you indicate that you're in, and there's no commitment to any amount, it's simply it'll give us an opportunity to touch bases with you, find out how we can help you help the ACC. So I just implore you to really consider this one very, very strongly. And thank you so much for turning up and showing up, and for a lot of you for putting up when it really hurt. And we're forever grateful for that. And I know the future of chiropractic in Australia will be too. So back to you, Patrick.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you very much. While Mark was beautifully articulating all of that, I had a request for Sam to say something too. Sam?
Yeah, I just was when Mark was talking then about New Zealand, and I was studying at the time, I just thought if any of those guys on the call that haven't been to Concordia or haven't been to the college yet, I think it's was my big take-home point. When I went to the college and we went upstairs above the actual seminar, and there was 190 guys in the room with some profound speakers, and then the Rubicon group was behind it, and then we found the 10 students there at the back of the room that were giving us, inspiration. Then I went upstairs and they were also serving out food. They were also adjusting, they were kind of showing their hands-on skills. Then we saw the lecture theatre, and I was like, wow, this is actually a real bricks and mortar thing. The ACC logo was behind the front desk. They had receptionists, and I was like, this is a real thing. It kind of made me feel like I was back at university again. And that was when I kind of thought, like, even the university students, they had this bunk about them that I was like, wow, this really is happening. And I know Beth, I spoke to her at the time, and she was like, I couldn't be more excited because RMIT was doing my head in. And Beth started at RMIT. So if we've ever complained before in the past about our current student graduates, for me, it was the first time that I actually had a little bit of hope in my heart that there's going to be some pretty exciting things in the future. So I know that some of you guys have been around a bit longer than I have, and you might have been through the pit days and been through New Zealand getting some money. But for the younger guys that are in their kind of like early 30s or maybe mid 30s or below, it's like this is really powerful for us to kind of see that we could actually have a school that's going to have rock stars. And I've already met the 10 students that are there, plus the 45 for next year. It's a pretty exciting stage we're setting once this school gets rocking. That's kind of why me and Adam and Kim and Troy jumped on board to make this thing happen, because what you guys have already done so far is awesome. And I think it's just going to be like, I'm so excited for where the school's heading, and I'm so excited for the profession. It's the first time in a long time that I could say that in Australia, that I'm excited about the profession rather than being whinging about APRA or anything else. So thank you for all that you've done so far.
Great. Thank you very much, Sam.
Patrick, could I just make one very brief comment at the end as the non-chiropractor in the group?
Of course, Jenny.
And particularly in support of what Bethany has said earlier as well, from the student perspective. Look, just very briefly, my background is in health sciences at the highest level in universities, amongst other disciplines, okay? I know a lot about the health context and changing models of health. Right now, the sorts of models of health and well-being combined, the focus of health services is in a sense at an optimum level for the kind of, or for advancement of the type of chiropractic philosophy and practice that ACC represents. It would be, as a non-chiropractor, but somebody who has that experience across the health sciences and health professions, I just think it would be a huge shame if all was lost in terms of ACC's viability, just in terms of getting over this particular threshold right now. As a startup, it's tough. And that's really what's happening in terms of the ACC context. And we know all about COVID-19 and the impacts, etc. So it's not, none of that's making it any easier. But I think that if this is the model, which is the now model, and it's the model for the future, it's also a question of giving those students, those prospective students out there, the choice of coming to ACC as opposed to university. All the university students will be qualifying for HECS help, which in a sense is the same as fee help, except that it's even more advantageous than fee help. So they're already in there with a start, but at least fee help would begin to level the playing field. And some students would perhaps choose ACC if the financial footing were there to enable fee help to become a reality. And also, as Bethany was saying, it's a question of other Commonwealth grants for students available to students. It's not nice, well, it's not helpful for students not to have access to those. So it's just going back to, somebody asked about the timeline. It's not too many weeks hence. It is a threshold. And as the non-chiropractor in the group, and the person who's led faculties of health sciences, and knows, you know, where natural and complementary medicine and chiropractic, and if you like, an integrative perspective fits in all of that. I just wanted to add my non-chiropractic vote of support for anybody who can lend a hand at this very critical period.
Great, thank you, Jenny. And I think on those wonderfully wise words from Mark, Jenny and Sam, we might bring this to a close. So look, we are always available to you. Feel free to reach out if you have any questions. I'm very happy to discuss this further with people. We're still developing the exact details of the trust, and Damon will make sure that we cover off on that point too. But please feel free to reach out. We want to be as available and as transparent as we possibly can. If you want to go through our finances, just let us know. But yeah, again, this is your college, and we know you wouldn't be on this call if you didn't have an interest in what we were doing. So thank you all very much. Thank you all very much to the ACC directors who are here, faculty who are here, and staff who are here. Thanks, Beth, and I think we have one other, Chelsea, who are our students. Thank you very much for turning up. And thank you very much to all our supporters. We look forward to hearing from you soon. So with that, I'll bid you all good night. Thank you.